Yeah. Now I'm still Pam Wycliffe from Lunch with the League. And there are a few things that we need to talk about that we talk about every time. And so all of you probably have it memorized, but we're going to do it again today. The League of Women Voters, never supports or opposes a political party or candidate. We are nonpartisan. We are a political organization that encourages informed and active participation in government. We don't support or oppose any candidate or party. We do have two roles. One is voter services and citizen education. We present unbiased, nonpartisan information about elections, voting process, and issues. And we've even had one of those debates, I think, recently. I was on vacation, so I missed it. And we also do action and advocacy. We are nonpartisan, but after we do studies, we use our positions to advocate for or against particular policies, excuse me, of public interest. So because of that, the comments and opinions of the folks that might be speaking today aren't necessarily those of the leagues, but are of the person doing the speaking. We'll be here till 1 o'clock, and then we will be done. And the general format is for Sara to speak for a half hour, and then we'll have Q&As for a half hour. And when we're doing that, if everyone would stay mute for the presentation. And if you have questions, put them in, or comments, put them in the chat down below. And then Sara can look at those, or we can remind her of where they are if she happens to miss any of them, so that she can answer your questions. If you want more information about the League of Women Voters and their positions, you can go to lwvsouthbend.org. It also has a link to the state League of Women Voters and to the national. And you can see so much information in there about what we stand for and what we don't stand for. We have a little bit of news from our own league. Early voting for Indiana primary is underway in St. Joe County. You can find the information and deadlines for on the county St. Joe County website, or visit your voter portal at indianavoters.com. Also, the league needs volunteers for some of the committees yet for next year. Please check the next news update for details. And the league will hold its next new member orientation via Zoom. Whoops, wait just a minute. There. On April 20th at 7 p.m. till 9 p.m. New and veteran members are encouraged to attend. There will be details in the next news update. If you're not yet a member, we encourage you to join our work. To join our work. Please visit our webpage to join and to find out more about it. And now I'd like to introduce our speaker and our topic for today. Sara Stewart is a master's prepared nurse. She is the founder, president, and executive director of Unity Gardens, Inc. And Sara, in her I'm just going to read what I've put together here. In her capacity as executive director of the Unity Garden, serves in conjunction with garden managers as hub of communication between various Unity Garden leaders and collaborators. And she'll probably tell us all about that. Somebody must have must be unmuted. If you would please mute. She has 16 plus years in business administration and community health setting, specializing in third-party healthcare and reimbursement and Medicaid. Her recent role as professor of community health nursing, in conjunction with her research focused on culture of socio-economic status and poverty, facilitates her entry into a variety of cultures. Congruent with her role as a public health nurse, Ms. Stewart, Sara, assesses the systems that will promote health for the community, and intervenes through gardens to assure public access to fresh produce. She has a plethora of postgraduate awards, and she received her BSN at DePauw University. She has the University of Notre Dame Creative Management and an MSN at Bethel College. And she's going to talk to us today about how community gardens grow more than fresh veggies. Is that me that's making that? And so, Sarah, take it away.
Fantastic. I don't hear any background noise, Pam. It sounded
Oh,
good.
must just be me then.
Sometimes it's feedback, but yeah, I didn't
Okay.
hear anything. So I need to adjust that bio because, you know, I find myself falling asleep halfway through, right? I think it's more of a Vita than than a brief bio,
No.
but accurate as it seems. So thank you all for coming. Many of you have been involved in Unity Gardens. So as I look among the gallery of all the people watching and whatnot, I see a bunch of friends. So that's kind of fun. And man, is it time to visit with everyone again. So I'm just going to hit my little timer here and make sure that we have exactly the right amount of time. And I know that Pam is going to be watching the chat. So if you have questions, definitely feel free to interrupt. Those of you that know me know that that's a comfort zone for me. As most of you know, Unity Gardens are more than just growing vegetables. And thanks to many of you, that's become more clear in our community. I always share the Unity Garden story and then all the updates. So I won't deviate from that. But of course, many of you are familiar with how it started, and I'll just briefly kind of go over some of that. And then we'll dig into some of the new and exciting things going on. But for those of you not as familiar, Unity Gardens is not just a model of wellness physically, but socially, environmentally, economically, and spiritually as well. I'll expand on that. In my role as a public health nurse and a professor at St. Mary's back between 2006 and 2011, I would take my nursing students out into the community for their clinicals. And we'd go to places like Broadway Christian Parish, Our Lady of the Road, the health department, or Hope Ministries, places where people would go to get resources. And my nursing students would be taking blood pressures and evaluating health and wellness and doing some health teaching. And for those of you that don't know, Broadway serves breakfast Monday through Thursday, no questions asked, no matter if you are street homeless or are suffering from poverty or just making difficult decisions between things like prescription drugs and food or heat and food. So you get all sorts of people or students doing service or other churches and religious affiliations doing service, all these people gathering together. And then Our Lady of the Road, the Catholic workers, Friday, Saturday, Sunday breakfast, and then oftentimes some evening, sorry about that. I should have put myself on Do Not Disturb, which I will do now. There we go. So it's actually me. That's so embarrassing. Anyway, so and then Hope Ministries that opens their doors for lunch and dinner 7 days a week. Isn't that beautiful? You can literally walk south of downtown and get 3 meals a day, 7 days a week, no matter what. What a great safety net. So I would go down there with my nursing students, and they'd be checking blood pressures. I go, oh, you have hypertension. You should watch what you eat. Ridiculous. They'd go on about teaching about healthy food while handing people or serving biscuits and gravy or salty green beans or other processed foods. And it took an embarrassing 6 years for me to kind of question that whole thing. And let me take a moment to introduce you to these folks here. Johnny, who's over here on the left in the orange shirt, was a friend who would frequent Broadway or Hope Ministries, et cetera. And the time I knew Johnny, he was really a gentle person. But the story he tells, and if you look a little closer, you'll notice some things. One is he, on his right arm, has a dialysis shunt. And Johnny suffered from drug and alcohol abuse so badly that he just ruined his kidneys. And so he was on dialysis. He was a recovering person when I knew him. He told me he spent, I think, over half of his life in prison. So very rough life there. And had a lot of hardships. The last time I saw Johnny alive, he was that Southside McDonald's. And I was like, hey, Johnny, how's it going? And he goes, not so good. He goes, I'm just tired. And I go, well, I'm sure there's something to look forward to. And he goes, oh, he heard that therapeutic communication coming a mile away. He goes, oh, you don't have to worry about me. Because when I look in the mirror, the guy looking back at me is the one that fed all those people. You see, Johnny was actually responsible for the success of our Ravenna Park Unity Garden in all of 2011, watering every single week. And when everything else seemed bleak, one of the things that he could assign with his sense of self was the fact that he was part of something positive, something bigger than himself. And that was enough to carry on sometimes. Johnny was the man that was found deceased on the corner of Edison and Grape Road a few years back, but he knew he was in the PowerPoint. He was all proud of that and whatnot. And the Tribune did a really nice article about his life and the value of that. The next person over looking particularly gangster is my daughter, Courtney. She's not homeless, at least not last time I talked to her. She was doing a senior service project for Culver Academies and taking the stories of people who frequented Broadway, at this case, and taking them back to her peers. And they were perfectly willing to share their stories with her. Maurice, the next one over, and Maurice was always telling me, he goes, I'm going to make it big. I'm going to be a musician. I'm going to make it big down in Florida. And Facebook is an amazing thing. He actually did. And I always get to see that he's doing different gigs down there and whatnot. So that's kind of fun. And then Michael, who just came traveling through with the circus. Who knew people would share resources? It's a commodity to kind of advocate for each other within some of these populations. But anyway, so I said to one of my friends when I was there with the nursing students at Center, I'm like, hey, I'm thinking about doing a garden where anyone could pick fresh, healthy food. And his response, he's like, wait a minute, I used to garden with my grandma. And he started weaving this tale about harvesting potatoes and the fond memories of that. And so I was pretty excited. And I went up to the next guy and I'm like, hey, I'm thinking about doing a garden down by the dock. That's kind of in that triangle of where you walk to get your 3 meals a day, 7 days a week. He's like, a garden. Oh, man, I can taste those greens now. And so I went home and I was thinking about it. I'm like, cool, they like my garden idea. You know, I love gardening. And then I'm like, wait a minute, I teach this stuff. When you're in the culture of poverty, especially multi-generational poverty, you're not typically reflecting on your past with fond memories or looking forward to the future with your goals and aspirations. You're stuck in the crisis of the moment, juggling survival. And yet, literally, when I shared my idea, one person reflected on their past with fond memories and one person looked forward with hope. And that was kind of that aha moment, the gift of Unity Gardens, as I say, where I realized it was an advocacy model. The food is good, but there's more going on here than just the food. I went and emailed 5 of my friends. Of course, the email was much longer than this. As you can see, I like to communicate. But it was literally just about this free, small idea of free, healthy food that anyone could access. And boy, did the community jump on board. Collaborations grew. People shared the story, like Judy shared the stories. And because of that, all these folks dedicated, whether they were passionate about fresh, healthy food or social justice or food security or environmentalism or naturally grown food or soil health, everyone just jumped on board. It was amazing. It's still amazing. It's kind of like grabbing a train that's racing off and just hanging on for dear life. Not how you're supposed to say it, but it's really how it is. And so the growth in 2008 was crazy. I would begin waving and gardening. And now I don't know if you all know, but this was over on Franklin and Garst and Broadway Street, 3 blocks south of the jail. And I'm waving and I frighten people. You're not supposed to wave when you're in certain neighborhoods. You're supposed to kind of keep your eyes to yourself. And people would kind of like drive by with their head down and whatnot. And people started changing. It was amazing. Now, I've been gardening for 5 generations. So I had land, I had seeds, I had dirt, not great dirt, but dirt. But I forgot one key ingredient, totally. I don't know what I was thinking, but I had no water, not a drop of it. So this picture shares something about that. It only took about 4 days before I figured out I had no water. So I went home and I was getting like 500 milk jugs. I had a teenage boy, so that explains that. And I would take them up 2 or 3 times a week to water my little garden. And in 2008, it was kind of a mild year, so that worked till about August 4th. And I'm standing there, you know, in my gardening gear, dirty, disheveled, hot. It's like 84 degrees. And my cucumber leaves are drying out. Now, any of you that are gardeners know that by the time your cucumber leaves are drying out, you're toast. So I'm feeling pretty discouraged. I mean, this is all about community health and wellness, you know, and I'm like, okay. And I see a vision out in the distance of water cascading down. And I'm like, man, my electrolytes are seriously off balance because I don't really believe in visions, you know, and I am a nurse. But I thought I'd follow the mirage. And so I walk a few blocks down and sure enough, I see this excavating firm, the Studebaker corridor, and they were tearing down some of those buildings. I'm like, oh, excuse me. And they're ignoring me. I'm like, huh. So I get closer, you know, hard hats and machines. I'm like, excuse me. And the guy turns off his machine and he says to me, he goes, can I help you, lady? Not so helpful like. And I'm like, I get all tongue tied and I'm like, can you water my garden? He's like, no. And then I look, you know, I'm all dirty and disheveled and walking that triangle where people go get their meals. I go, no. It's all about community health and we can't afford not to, and childhood obesity and, you know, diabetes. And he's like, lady, you know, because I'm going on like crazy. He goes, lady, you can contact our owner. So, you know, I get out my smartphone and I email the owner and he came out. So this picture here is about C&E Excavating, who they don't even remember they've done this, but I do. And what's significant here is not this, it is that it was my first ask, my first yes. And boy, I've never quit asking since, so please run when you see me coming. The city of South Bend then a week later opened up the hydrant that was about 1.5 blocks down for us to use for the garden, which I think is really spectacular. The vision for Unity Gardens always was about just creating a ton of food so everyone would have access. People don't share when they're scared of not having enough. And everyone who's a gardener realizes that 1 cherry tomato plant or 2 zucchini plants, 1, it'll die, but 2, and you've got plenty to share. And we've done pretty well. I'm not sure the city saw this many coming, but we have between 20 and 60 Unity Gardens every year. This year, it looks like we're falling right around 35. And any of you who represent a garden and have not contacted Micah, please do. If you don't know where one is near you, feel free to type in and ask, or we can chat about it in the discussion because I pretty much have them memorized. So we're growing all these little food hubs and something magical was happening. We were growing common ground, places where diverse people could hang out and be together. Instead of our ever increasing world where we're all the same, you know, whether it's our church, our school, our job, our neighborhood, these are places that are completely inclusive. And when diverse people get together, they start creating their own community solutions. Mission always was more than just physical health. And I think you all know that you're supposed to eat more fruits and vegetables. Do we have that memo? You know, and fruit roll-ups don't count. So once we get beyond that, though, let's look at the environmental health. What about greening the city and climate change and soil health and pollination and mitigating flood through, you know, natives, et cetera. There's so much there. And then social health. When did community service become punishment? You know, did I miss that memo? I thought it was something that was supposed to uplift you when you were feeling like you weren't connected or you weren't like part of something bigger than yourselves. And then economic health. And when I used to start about talking about economic health, people would be like, well, what? But even the US Conference of Mayors listed doing gardens in community spaces as being one of the ways to revitalize cities. The garden in Miami Village area, someone's asking about the South Side one, Karen is. We used to have one in Miami and Miami and Indiana, but we don't anymore. The one on Kern, not anymore. So the closest would be either Lakeville or the First Source Bank on Ewing and 31. Those would be the two closest down in that location. There's some talk of Rum Village going on right now. A map of Unity Gardens. Yes, if you, yeah, Molly, if you go on our website, you'll see an old one. And then, you know how nothing ever gets erased on the World Wide Web. So the problem is that you sometimes will even bring up a 2015 one. One of the worst things with that is that people who are really limited in terms of their resources running around the entire city looking for a tomato. So what we do encourage people to do is call or text so that we can help guide them. The map is always something that's a work in progress. Like right now, we don't know our final list. So we're always hesitant to share, but good questions on that part. So a lot of people at this point, they're always like, oh, I get it. I've heard of community gardens throughout the nation. And what I have to always focus on is community gardens are great. They're where people come together in the same environmental context and grow food for themselves. Unity Gardens is an outrageous, dignified free food model. It's like edible parks where a group of people come together and grow food for everyone. You don't have to be poor. When poor people hang out with poor people, there's a lot of noise and humor, and it's the vacation of the mind, but not a lot else is sprouting. But when you have all people coming together, opportunities sprout. It becomes a handout for people that are hungry. And as Abraham Maslow would remind us, that becomes then a way that when you feed the hungry, people can focus on higher levels of achievement, and it becomes an opportunity for those otherwise oppressed. The way it works is that Unity Gardens only have two criteria. The diversity portion, so it's not just one family on their little yard growing food to give away. It is diverse people coming together, whether that's a school, a church, a neighborhood, a business, an organization, and then the free food part, where the food is unencumbered access for everyone. We used to grow all the gardens ourselves. Once you got up to 38, that doesn't work math-wise. So what we do is we manage directly the 7-acre urban ecosystem here at LaSalle Square. And then we do teaching and garden planning, things about like crop rotation, harnessing donations, member run when you see me, offering guidance to help with volunteers. It's kind of easy to teach a gardener or a community activist how to garden. Very difficult to teach those gardeners how to community activists and grab, you know, the energy of their community. Providing insurance seems kind of boring. It's $19,000 a year worth of boring. So I always point out that doesn't make any sense for one garden, but it does make sense for 30 or 40. We assist in garden infrastructure, things like raised beds, benches, picnic tables, signs, hoses, things that help scream, this is the Unity Garden, come pick free. And then raising community awareness. We have Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, because we're cool now. So definitely we try to promote, and the media has, of course, been very kind to us as well. But we've learned a ton. So those of you that have been asleep up to this point, and I can't see all your faces, so that's good. Now's the new part. We've been doing a lot. So let's go over some of the things that that we've been enjoying and growing with as we recognize the best ways and most efficient ways to connect our community to fresh, healthy food. Our annual impact surprised even us. In 2020, we were able to measure that we grew over 180,000 pounds of produce here at the Big Garden at LaSalle Square and engaged over 11,500 people in our programs despite the pandemic. So although we lost our big volunteer groups, et cetera, we had virtual classes and maybe didn't reach as many, but that's still a substantial number. And then we had 30 Unity Gardens despite the fact that all the school gardens dropped off that year. We teach, whether it's teaching adults, kids, outside, inside, about food, everything connecting people to healthy food, ground to the mouth. Beekeeping, we do on site as well, and our bees are famous. I love the picture of the Holy Cross student holding the frame full of hives and the honey. It's really fun. And then even Tim Scott down here on the bottom left, like all suited up while the little neighborhood girl is like, oh, those are our bees. Yeah, it's kind of fun. Chickens are famous too. Who wouldn't love to hold a chicken? And one of the things we find is that, especially nestled in the neighborhood we're in, across from Beacon Heights, many of the kids don't have access to nature or holding something more gentle than they are. And we're literally growing empathy, attracting people into the garden in our edible parks. And then all of a sudden it becomes part of their lifestyle as they're having a good time. Everything at Uni Gardens is about attraction, not promotion. Goats are famous too. Who wouldn't want to go see a goat and feed them, right? Ghost and Shadow are old men now, but they stay here and manage our poison ivy and wild grapes and are a lot of fun to play with, through the fence, of course. One of our programs that I'm most proud of is the investment in future generations with our summer interns and our garden guides. We're 5 generations displaced from the farm. People no longer know where to find the tomato versus the radish versus the green bean, which hide under leaves. So we harness the energy of about 18 to 20 paid summer interns every year. We pay them so that we are not part of the cycle of poverty, because when you don't pay your interns, you're incentivizing these great experiences only for people of some means that can afford to work free. So we pay everyone, and they do all sorts of things, whether it's agriculture, teaching, sales, entrepreneurship, social media. We've had engineering, physics, sustainability, all sorts of majors, philosophy, theology. Last year was the year of values. It was funny. And then we invest in kids. We've had garden camp and a number of different programs to really encourage the kids and future generations to connect with the gardens and the joy of gardening and eating fresh produce. We have a lot of different events that we do in the garden, including a potluck picnic we did every single week through the summer, where neighbors could bring things and we'd all sit down for a dinner. We had 72 people right there across from Beacon Heights, the last one we did in 2019. Volunteer groups are the backbone of what we do. So we host not only students from all over the region, but also different businesses. You see Target here, we have Kohl's and Starbucks and University of Michigan, so many Notre Dame and St. Mary's students, and then our regular volunteer group every Tuesday, 9 to 12. So please join us anytime then, year round. We have an urban farm that helps us support the Uni Gardens. And because we're not big farmers, we grow things like hot peppers. Oh, I'm not talking like jalapeno, although we grow those. I'm talking like Carolina Reaper and Dust Spiral and Trinidad Scorpion and Ghost, which is a great crop because we're not tilling, we're growing naturally. And yet with the specialty crop, we sell the seeds, and then we sell the plants, and then we sell the peppers, and then we dry the peppers and sell those, and then we grind them and sell the powder, and then we sell the honey that's infused with habanero or ghost pepper, and it is to die for on pizza, by the way. So we tend to try to do things that are unique. We do baby greens, cherry tomatoes, etc., at our South Bend Farmers Market booth. That's what the urban farm looked like when we originally put it up, so that we can grow pretty much all seasons. We have a little lull in winter. We have solar energy, not just at the garden and the greenhouses, but also now at our Welcome Center, where we're trying to show and be demonstrators of renewable energy. Our farmers market booth, where you can see our compostable corn containers with greens in them. If you haven't visited, please do. We're there every Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday, 7 to 3, Fridays starting May. And we have a wide array of gift things, whether it's beeswax candles or honey products, etc. Speaking of that honey, in 2012, when we started winning awards for our honey, and throughout not just the state, but the nation, that is something that really launched us in a new way. And our honey is not only naturally processed and raw, but we don't feed the bees sugar, which is how it usually is done. And that's part of what is in the flavor. Oh, yay. Thank you, CJ. And the internship stuff, I'm not sure if it's on the website yet or not, but you can always text me. I'm missing some of the questions. Sorry about that, guys. The ADD is not working for me, apparently. But anyway, so the honey not only did that start really cementing our organizational sustainability, but then the honey products where we sell the infused honeys, cinnamon and vanilla honey and ginger turmeric honey and all the pepper honeys. But then we have 5 kinds of hot sauces and 3 ketchups and 2 barbecue and honey mustard. And then we have the beeswax hand balms and lip balms and the soaps we make ourselves that have honey in them, and even our veggie pun cards. So please come see. Oh, and soy sauce and teriyaki, etc. Now I know it sounds kind of crazy, all this stuff we're doing, and it seems like we're all over the place, but not really. This was our 10-year plan about 11 years ago. And as you can see, phase 1, where the main garden is, phase 2, where the native pollination and farm area are, and phase 3, where a welcome center and farmers market right on site would be. So we look not too bad. The main garden over on the left, and for a frame of reference, that little red shaded shelter is 16 by 20 feet. Above it are educational gardens, and then the beehives where that forest area is. The goats live in the forest area. The blob is not a blob, it's a square kind of, but it is our native planting area. And then in the upper right, you see not only the urban farm area, the only fenced area where we grow food for profit, but also then the East Garden, where we've done a whole fruit forest and expanded the food over there right across from our Beacon Heights neighbors. What's next? And Mayor Pete is not a good guide when it comes to horticulture. He does not know the difference between the sunflower and milkweed, so don't take that advice. One thing is our succession team. I am clearly old, and so we have hired a team of people to take us into this next generation and beyond. Micah is our Welcome Center manager, and she does a lot of events and programming. Emily's our urban farm manager, and she is in charge of all that food for profit and growing most efficiently. Those two actually were garden leaders in the years past. So I'm so proud of this team because they're folks that came to us. We weren't hiring. We should have been hiring, but we weren't hiring. And all of a sudden they came to us and said, you know, we really want to be part of this. So that was very exciting. The other folks, Shay and Elena, are coordinators working in volunteer and intern development. And then also Shay's doing development in youth programming. So she's actually writing grants. We're doing an Edgy Veggie program. We have purchased this vehicle. We're so thrilled with it. We've gotten all the funding for it. One of the ways that we can reach more people and connect them to healthy, fresh food is by taking Unity Gardens on the road to places where there aren't gardens yet. So this will be a way we can take our best programs and best classes. Lippert Components has agreed to kind of design the whole interior, so they have the vehicle right now. So we'll hope programming comes soon. Accessibility garden. It's great that Unity Gardens is so inclusive to everyone, but if you're on a wheelchair walker or getting old like me, it'd be nice to have some pathways. And boy, do we have pavers. We just last month received funding from the county ARP funds to do a parking lot and some paved pathways. So we are thrilled. Now it's just a matter of getting the design approved in Department of Transportation. But look how beautiful that'll be, where we can have raised beds and insert wheelchair beds so that people not only can harvest, but they can also volunteer. So we will be putting pavers down throughout a lot of areas in the garden. So like kids in wheelchairs can go see the chickens or goats as well. And our greenhouses will start having pavers. And our community learning center, finally, a home for Unity Gardens. It's been a long 13 years of porta potties. And there it is. So we were able to build the shell of it. We raised enough funds to build the shell of the Welcome Center. And then the unions came on board and have been doing everything inside for free, completely in kind. We're buying some of the things, but mostly they're just the electricians and the plumbers and pipe fitters and Kutz Wagner and dynamic mechanical. We got like air conditioners. When I do a tour now, I actually bring everyone into the restroom and show them the paper towel dispenser because it's a symbol. You know, none of you own one either. I didn't either. It just showed up along with the flushable toilets. This week will be, this week or next, I think the sinks are getting in the bathroom. So So exciting. I just am overcome by the generosity. And as I said, the ARP County funds will have a parking lot area, as you see here. It'll just be a nice little U with the rain garden in front. So it'll be super pretty. That's what the rain garden will theoretically look like, you know, with all the flowers and absorbing the water and bringing it back into the aquifer that is completely from the roof. So the last thing that I love to share in terms of our programs, this year we got funding from a Purdue grant for educational stations in the garden. So some infrastructure where people can do self-guided educational tours. We have our garden guide program where people can, that we're here in the garden, paid people in the evening or daytime to kind of show people around. Where's the cherry tomato? Where are the chickens? It's 7 acres. But now we'll have self-guided tours for when we're not there, and imagine things like a tasting station or a harvest map or a composting station, you know, different places where people can interact and play. We'll include a supply shed. Judy should be looking at this because that's where our volunteer supplies will be. Bilingual signage and informational kiosk where there'll be a whole map of the garden, and a way to connect our harvesting visitors to our events and classes as well. Why is all this important? Why do you guys care? Usually I go through a drop down, and I will, in terms of the reasons, you know, creating a better future for our kids and creating the first dignified, sustainable food model system in the entire nation. But this letter I found in a rather affluent neighborhood, the one on Miami and Kern, just south of there, that Peggy left for us years ago. And I think it really explains that we don't know which neighbors might be a bit food insecure, something about having to buy the 25-cent can of green beans instead of harvest something fresh or get something fresh, and those kinds of challenges. And so the way that this kind of kindness and sharing permeates the health and wellness of each other, and the kindness is, I think, spectacular. Let's see, pavers are water permeable. Yes, Ellen, some of them are. Some of them, the way we place them will be too, because they'll have spaces in between. I think it is important to realize and to highlight the national attention we've gotten because of the fact that this is so unique. In South Bend, we tend to think that, oh, no big deal, Unity Gardens, these are great. But we have the attention of the nation right now as we won the USA Today award for Best in Earthkind. This model is outrageous. I spent the first 4 years explaining to people that you could grow free food for everyone. No one argues that anymore. But I think in looking at the value system of many millennials and centennials or Gen Zs, it's really an honor to be able to hand this off over the next decade to that next generation that already has challenged us in terms of living their own value systems, whether that's through putting their money where companies that they admire are investing in them, or whether it be just raising the narrative of social justice in ways that may be uncomfortable, but yet necessary to get us to the next level. So I think we're in really good hands, and I'm really proud of the way all of you and the community has, and now the nation has helped support this idea. It reinforces my Buddhism practice in knowing that I have good work and purpose. No, just kidding. So these are different ways. Donating is always welcome. However, there are other ways. Volunteering, spreading the word, joining our social media, or just even telling a friend. There's so many people that think they know Unity Gardens, but they don't. And I love how I put we have Insta and TikTok too, as if I'm really hip. I don't even hardly know how to get on TikTok, but when I do, I am dying laughing. Our team is so funny. So, get on TikTok and search Unity Gardens and you will die. It's just a great little entertainment. I do see that Molly was asking if outside groups can rent space in the education center. So the first answer I have is no. You may use space for your group and we will host you, but we don't charge for that. I know as a nonprofit dedicated to free food how hard it is to find a free venue when you're trying to do something. So instead, what we would like to do is open our Welcome Center so that we can have and host groups for free.
Wow. Sara, there are a few more questions that are some back. How did you ramp up during the pandemic? Because it seemed like you seemed to ramp up.
Yeah.
And how did you do that during the pandemic? How
So
did that work?
Yeah. There's two things. One is very intentionally, I had a moment where it was very difficult. The day before our big growing summit, we had usually 600 to 1,000 people there. We had chefs ready, everything. The city closed down. And so we couldn't have our big event, our big educational event. So what we did was we, and simultaneously, all these interns, these summer interns who tend to stay with us 2, 3, and 4 years, they'd invested their time with us and they were being sent home without graduation, out saying goodbye to their friends, without a job, without a plan. Mm-hmm. So we hired them all. I thought if we're going, I know I'm a public health nurse. I know what a pandemic means. So I thought if we're going down because of, the lack of food and illness and quarantine and lack of sales at farmers market, we're going to go down growing food. We're going to, when all else fails, you have to just have a laser focus on your vision. So we just grow a ton of food. That's why I'm probably the only executive director out there always dirty. But so we hired them all 20 of them. I didn't have the funding, et cetera. And we grew so much food. We had the entire garden planted in March with greens and we won. In May, this garden was full of food. And, I knew the funding was clear that it was a problem in April. And then all of a sudden, everyone wanted to be a gardener. And this is where faith comes in. We grew all those seeds and planted all that stuff and sold plants at our farmers market booth. And our plant sales went to almost $5,000 a week. It made up for all those 20 interns we invested in, and we came out at the end of the year just fine. Every grant I wrote that shared that story about how we pivoted just to follow our vision rather than any fiscal responsibility, we won a Teachers Credit Union Small Business Award. We got a United Way award. It was weird. We never get any of those things. And then 2021, we were all prepared, ramped up for the same thing. All the fundraising events were all used to being canceled. And something weird happened. We had 100% turnover of all our people. And I think the idea that we could lose our cultural value and history because Mitch and I were the only ones to carry that on was terrifying. The idea of growing gardens is not new, but the idea of growing free gardens that are completely inclusive and the way we do that is completely new. And that is why the investment in this team. And so what I've done is gotten a lot more honest in my tours about some of those challenges and some of those fears and what it's like to challenge new ground. And people, it has resonated as powerful with people. And we are in a better position today in terms of our year than ever before. I don't know why. I am so grateful. I have no idea. It's just wonderful. Oh, Lisa.
Okay. Have you? Can you find information? Are these internships for high school kids or college kids or everybody?
Everybody. Everybody's the correct answer. We hire college students and beyond, so we have plenty of adults as well. However, I have hired juniors and seniors before in high school because those local folks then sometimes end up working the market in some of our events, and then they continue to work with us because we're fun.
And is that on your webpage?
I'm not sure. We have talked about it because Elena has just taken on the role of our intern and volunteer coordinator, so I'm not sure it's on yet. However, emailing me or Elena, and my new email is actually Sara@theunitygardens.org or Micah@theunitygardens.org or Emily@theunitygardens.org or even Mitch, but Elena, ALAYNA @theunitygardens.org.
Okay. And has there been any investigation into not using plastic containers for lettuce and stuff?
Those aren't plastic. They're compostable corn.
See, you're
Great
just
question.
You're just awesome.
40 cents a piece versus 10. And then styrofoam's even cheaper. So like, so tempting, but we don't chase the money no matter what. The value system and vision come first. The mission congruence is second. And then third is like, the money. And the money is important. That's a limiting factor, but not at the expense of our integrity.
And do the volunteers prepare all the boxes and the raised gardens and all that stuff and do the honey and do all the, or do you contract that work out?
Oh no. No, I do it all. No, just kidding. I don't. I used to, it feels like, but so the volunteers mostly work in the garden, the open garden mostly. Yeah. Now we have our regular Tuesday group that works everywhere in the farm area, in there, at the main garden. And then our satellite gardens rely on volunteers as well. So sometimes if someone lives near a satellite garden, they might want to come out to the big garden, but they love working right in their neighborhood and getting to know their neighbors. However, when it comes to harvest, interns and usually employees are doing the harvest for market. When it comes to staffing the market, they do that. When it comes to making soaps and the balms, we do all that. When it comes to infused honeys, we do all that. Tim, our beekeeper, bottles the regular honey. And then we do the infused. He also makes the candles and lip balms. And then Hobo Jim makes all the sauces. He's got the license for the condiments, Jim Sills, and he's part of the McCormick spice family. So he's got like this great palette. And then Joe Gady makes our kombuchas and krauts. So it's always community partners. It's very close. EcoAl does all of our printing. I mean, we mostly do our own stuff, or it's very, very close.
Okay. When will guided tours start?
They've never stopped.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are the garden space lots privately or publicly owned, and how are the locations chosen?
So by attraction, not promotion. It's a theme with us. So people will come to us and say, I'd like to do one of these Unity Gardens, whether it's a church, a neighborhood, a business, a prison, a park. So we have Unity Gardens on all sorts of land. We have Area Agency on Aging in Plymouth. We have, we used to have the prison up here, and they of course had to donate the food differently because they don't want everyone running around the prison. So all different ones like that. And we don't own any of those, which we like that. We're facilitating the success of our volunteer neighborhood Unity Garden leaders. And it is a big job. What we're trying to do is get to the point where we can actually facilitate their success more hands-on at times, because there's times life happens and you just need that help. But we give them free seeds, free plants. We'll give them hoses, sprinklers. We try to harness donations for them as well.
May I just say that our church is in the beginning of our second year, and Sara and her team are amazing, and the city of South Bend, quite honestly, with the organic resources department, they are amazing. They just dumped 5 yards each of organic mulch and organic compost into our church parking lot this morning.
Oh.
Well, yeah. I was just thinking, Sara, you said that you were just amazed at the generosity, but I think it's easy for groups to be generous when they see such wonderful work being done for the community and for our city and our county.
It's a ton of fun. I mean, when you look at the group here, so many of you have been involved in many different ways, and it's a ton of fun. It is. Everyone wants to be relevant and useful and spiritual in the way they live their life and part of something. And, what a joy it is to be able to lead this. It's scary. There's a big responsibility. I will not disappoint anyone to my, for all my power, but it's scary. But like the other day, the city of South Bend has never just given us money, like I've never asked. And the other day I asked for something for the parking lot and that whole project. And they said I had to do a presentation. So I had to do a presentation. I was really scared. And at the end of it, they go, well, we've decided to approve this. I'm like, what? And I actually started crying, which is embarrassing on Zoom. Like, I wanted to make one of those fake pictures of myself, but that's never happened. Like, what? No red tape, no nothing. Just, this sounds good. What? It's amazing.
That's because you're doing wonderful work. Like Barbara Young said, Victor Hugo said, nothing is so powerful as an idea whose time has come. And you have proven this, Sara. So wonderful.
Thank you, Barbara. She's been involved for a long time too.
And several people have said other comments that you might want to read.
Is there a way to access these afterwards?
I don't know if they show up when in the Zoom recording. Does anybody know? I think they do, but
I'm reading all these things. Ellen's here, yes.
I think
but I
you
don't
have
know.
to copy them and like cut and paste and save them.
That's kind of what I've done in the past. Oh, Lisa. God, so many good people on here. It's really fun to see you all. Oh, thanks, Lisa.
Well, Sara, if there are no other questions, thank you so very much. This has been very enlightening. Quite frankly, I didn't know a lot about Unity Gardens. I keep seeing signs around, but I didn't know a lot about it. And you do wonderful work.
Well, thank you, and come out and visit.
Will do. And and thank you so much for sharing everything with us. It's been not only enlightening, but it's also been delightful. You are very humble, and you did a wonderful job. Thank you so very much.
Absolutely. Thank you all. Definitely come by, and the phone number is a text as well. So feel free to use it. Although we're going to have a new real number now. Like, it's not mine forever. I even know it. It's not active yet, but do you guys want to be the first to know it?
Sure.
All right, listen to this number. This is the Unity serendipity right here. Because they even said, like, oh, you can't buy good numbers, blah, blah. 574-222-2266. What? Isn't
awesome?
I know. Don't call it that yet, because it might ring and we won't know how to answer our phones yet.
It used to be that you could pick numbers, because I can remember times when I'd say, no, I don't want that number. I don't remember it. I don't want that
apparently
number.
You have to buy them now. And that happened to be our alarm system number. And so we're switching it because we own it. So I'm like, well, why wouldn't we use that? That's a great number.
Very good. Very good.
Thank you.
And I think, and the Zoom will be, the recording of the Zoom will be available, not immediately, but Sara Mahoney puts it on our webpage, and also I think on the Facebook page, on the League's Facebook page. So if you have anybody that needs to see it or wants to see it again or whatever, it'll be available there probably within the week. And again, Sara, unless anybody has anything else to say, thank you very much for being here. Everyone, come back next month on the second Friday and we'll have another Zoom and we can spend lunchtime together. And Sara, again, thank you so much.
Thank you. Take care, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
Hello.
Bye.
My first applause.
Thank you.